So if you're building or investing in Web3, you know that growth is pretty much the name of the game. But what if I told you the way we've all been measuring it is, well, completely wrong? Today, we are going to dive into a new playbook, a much smarter way for Web3 projects to find real, lasting growth. All right, just look at these two charts. On the left, you've got what we call vanity growth. It's chaotic, right? It's all these short-term spikes driven by hype, airdrops, and whatever meme coin is hot that week. Yeah, it looks kind of impressive for a minute, but you know it's not going to last. Now, look at the right. That's intelligent growth. It's steady, it's predictable, it's a real foundation. So the question for every project out there is simple. Which curve do you want to be on? To really get why we need this new approach, we've got to talk about what's broken. So let's dig into the broken promise of Web3 growth and why the old ways just aren't cutting it anymore. Okay, let's just be real for a second. For years, the industry has basically been chasing ghosts. All those growth models we relied on, they just haven't created lasting value or kept users around. It's been this constant cycle of boom and bust, not just in the market, but for how we even get users in the first place. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The team at Polygon DeFi came right out and said it on X. TVL is a broken metric. You know, when a huge player like that calls out one of the core metrics we've all used for years, you know there's a serious need for change. So let's get into the specifics, the usual suspects. Liquidity mining? Sure, it brought in what we now call mercenary capital, folks who were only there for the crazy high yields and poof, gone the second things cooled off. Points programs and airdrops? I mean, they were so often a mess, attracting bots and people who had zero long-term interest. And those early Quest platforms, they basically just rewarded one-off clicks, not real deep engagement. And here's the common thread, the big takeaway from all of this. All these failed tactics, they have one thing in common. They were all about optimizing for things that are super easy to count, like TVL or just raw transaction numbers, instead of focusing on what actually builds a healthy, strong ecosystem for the long run. Which, of course, brings us to the solution. It's a whole new way of thinking, call out. So what exactly is IDG? Well, at its heart, it's a huge shift away from chasing those easy, feel-good vanity metrics. Instead, it's about using deep data analysis, smart user segmentation, and even AI to find, and this is the key part, keep the users who are going to provide the most value over time. It's a total focus on quality over quantity. You know, I absolutely love this analogy because it just makes it so clear. The old way, it's like standing on a busy street corner, handing out flyers to everyone, just hoping someone cares. But IDG, it's like being a detective. You're carefully piecing together clues from all this on-chain and off-chain data to find the exact people who are genuinely fired up about what you're building. Okay, so that's the what, but how does this thing actually work? Let's break down the framework behind IDG. It really comes down to these 4 pillars. First, you got to collect and analyze all the data, not just transactions, but social media, developer activity, the whole shebang. Second, you use that data to score and segment your users to figure out who your real power users are. Third, you find the actual patterns, the real signals hidden in all that noise. And finally, and this is crucial, you act on it with super targeted strategic campaigns. Now for the really fun part, because this framework, it's not just some theory. Let's look at the proof and see what actually happens when you start hunting for these high-value users. This is it, right? This is the million-dollar question for every single project out there. Who are the users that actually move the needle? Well, the data gives us an answer, and it's surprisingly clear. Okay, now this is fascinating. What you're looking at is something called the double inflection point. So along the bottom, you'll have a user's score. Think of it as a quality rating based on their on-chain behavior. And on the side is the economic value they generate. Now look closely. The value line is pretty much flat, until a user score hits about a 4. And then bam, it just takes off growing exponentially. This tells us that a tiny fraction of high-quality users create the vast majority of the real economic value. And this slide just drives that point home. It's all about signal versus noise. Look at the top chart. That's raw transaction counts. See all that activity from the low-scoring addresses? That's the noise from bots and airdrop farmers. But now look at the bottom chart. When you only look at truly meaningful actions, like providing liquidity, the high-scoring users completely dominate. It's not even close. They're not just clicking around. They are the ones actually powering the ecosystem. This is all powerful stuff, but let's see what happens when you put it into practice. Here's a real-world case study from the Aptos ecosystem that's just wow. So by using this IDG approach to find promising users and then guide them on these data-driven journeys, the results were absolutely staggering. For one protocol, Aries, the deposit volume from these targeted users went up by nearly 750%. That is not a typo. And it wasn't just a one-time cash injection. The actual number of valuable transactions from those same users, it also shot up by 376%. That's sustained, high-quality activity. That's the good stuff. But honestly, here's the most important part. The quality of these users was just on another level. They did more transactions, their on-chain volume was higher, and their average quality score was more than double that of people who weren't part of these journeys. They even started using more protocols across the entire ecosystem. They became true, bona fide power users. So let's zoom out a bit. What does this all mean for the future of Web3? Because this is way more than just a new marketing trick. This really is growth 2.0. It's a huge sign that the whole industry is finally starting to mature. We're moving beyond those really basic incentives and short-term hype, and we're heading toward a future that's much more sophisticated and actually backed by data. And this isn't just happening in a bubble. A whole ecosystem of tools is popping up specifically to support this new model. You've got data platforms, next-gen questing platforms, identity solutions, all designed to make this intelligent approach to growth possible. This is a real movement. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. The next time you're looking at a project's growth chart or their user numbers, ask yourself this question. Are you seeing the signs of real, intelligent growth, or are you just looking at the noise? Because knowing the difference, well, that's the new key to winning in Web3.